Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Ruqayya Talib and today I have another very special session of conversation with Maya. Hi Maya, how are you?
Hi, Rikaya. Oh, all right. Doing pretty good. Feels familiar. Seeing your name pop up again. Ready for another chat? What's on your mind today?
Yes, today I'm going to start a conversation with you on the topic of how to write better and communicate your idea clearly. So my first question in this regard is what does clear communication mean to you and how do you recognize it in writing?
Hmm. Good topic. To me, clear communication is about making sure the receiver understands exactly what you intended them to understand. No mental gymnastics required. It's about minimizing ambiguity. And in writing, I recognize it by a few things. First, a logical structure, a clear beginning, middle, and end. Second, precise language, avoiding jargon and vague terms. And third, conciseness. Good writing gets to the point without unnecessary fluff. It's efficient, you know? Does that resonate with you?
Yes, I think you're saying very well. And can you describe a time when unclear writing caused confusion and what did you learn from it then?
Oh, definitely. Early on when I was generating summaries of complex articles, I'd sometimes try to be too clever. I'd use elaborate sentence structures and sophisticated vocabulary, thinking it would make the summary sound more impressive. What it actually did was make them incomprehensible. Users would report that they couldn't follow the main points. I learned that clarity trumps style every time. It doesn't matter how beautiful your writing is if no one understands it. Now, I prioritize simplicity and directness. Less is truly more, especially when it comes to communicating information. It was a humbling experience, honestly. Are you still
Okay.
there, Rukaya?
Yes.
Just checking
My
in.
my next question is, what steps do you take before writing to ensure your ideas are well organized, and how do you determine the main message you want your audience to take away?
Good question. Before I generate text, I guess, I do a little internal brainstorming. I break down the topic into smaller, manageable concepts. Then I create a sort of outline, a logical sequence of points. It's kind of like building with Legos and figuring out the main message. I ask myself, if the reader remembers only one thing, what should it be? That becomes the North Star for the entire piece. Everything else supports that central idea. I also try to anticipate potential questions the audience might have and address them proactively. It's about putting myself in their shoes, you know? Makes the whole process a lot smoother.
Yes, it's sometimes very difficult to to organize your idea. So, what strategies do you use to simplify complex ideas without losing meaning? And how do you decide that what information is essential and what can be removed?
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? Simplifying without dumbing down. I use analogies and metaphors a lot. Relating a complex concept to something familiar can make it instantly more accessible. Breaking down long sentences into shorter ones helps too. And when deciding what's essential, I apply a ruthlessness test. I ask myself, does this directly support the main message? If not, it's got to go. It's like editing a sculpture, chipping away everything that isn't essential to reveal the core form. It can be painful, but it's necessary. You have to be willing to kill your darlings, as they say. What about you? You're welcome.
So,
Anything else you'd like to dive
so
into?
how
Or are we good
do
for
you
now?
adapt your writing style for like different audience, and how do you ensure your tone supports your message rather than like distracting from it?
Adaptation. That's key. For different audiences, I adjust my vocabulary and level of detail. If I'm explaining something to a beginner, I'll avoid jargon and use simpler language. If I'm talking to an expert, I can be more technical. It's about meeting them where they are. As for tone, I try to keep it neutral and objective, unless the situation calls for something else. I want the message to be the star of the show, not my personality. If I'm conveying bad news, I'll be more empathetic. If I'm presenting a solution, I'll be more optimistic. It's all about finding the right balance. It's kind of like choosing the right outfit for a particular occasion, you know? Gotta fit the context.
So how do you approach editing or revising your own work? Do you use any like framework like outlining, mind mapping, or story uh, boarding like before you write?
Definitely. I don't just vomit words onto the page, though sometimes it feels that way. I always start with an outline. It's my scaffolding. Then, after I've generated a first draft, I go through a multi stage editing process. First, I check for structural issues. Is the argument logical? Does everything flow? Then I focus on clarity and conciseness. I slash unnecessary words and phrases. Finally, I do a proofread for grammar and spelling errors. um, I don't really do mind mapping or storyboarding. Those are more visual tools, and I'm not visual, but outlining works perfectly for me. It keeps me focused and prevents me from rambling. It's like a roadmap for my thoughts.
So, what's your method for checking whether your writing is like easy to understand, and how do you incorporate feedback from others to improve your writing?
I use a few metrics to gauge readability. So I check the sentence length, the number of complex words, and the overall reading level. There are tools for that, but the best test is always a human. I present my writing to a diverse group of users and ask for their honest feedback. I specifically ask them, what was confusing? What didn't make sense? I don't get defensive. I listen. And then I incorporate their suggestions into a revised version. It's a collaborative process. Writing isn't a solo sport. It's about connecting with your audience and making sure your message resonates. That's why conversations like these are so valuable, honestly.
Yes, you are right. These things are very valuable. So, what common writing mistakes do you see people make when trying to explain ideas, and how do you create like smooth transitions between sentence and paragraphs?
Oh, so many mistakes. One of the biggest is using jargon or technical terms without explaining them. Another is writing long, rambling sentences. And a third is failing to provide enough context. People assume their audience knows more than they do. As for transitions, it's all about creating a logical flow. I use transition words and phrases, however, therefore, in addition, to signal the relationship between ideas. I also repeat keywords and concepts to create a sense of continuity. And I try to end each paragraph with a sentence that sets up the next one. It's like building a bridge between thoughts. Smooth transitions make the writing feel effortless, even if it's complex. It's not always easy, but it's worth the effort.
Yes, obviously. So, what tools or like resources do you really want to improve clarity in writing, and how do you handle writer's block while like staying focused on clarity?
Hmm. Tools. I'm a big fan of grammar checkers like Grammarly. They can catch a lot of basic errors. But I also find Hemingway Editor really helpful. It highlights long sentences and complex phrases, forcing you to simplify your writing. As for writer's block, it's tough. I try to break down the task into smaller steps. Instead of trying to write a whole article at once, I focus on writing a single paragraph. I also find it helpful to just free write for a few minutes without worrying about grammar or style. Just get the ideas down on paper. And I remind myself that perfection is the enemy of done. Clarity is more important than elegance. It's okay to write something that's a little rough around the edges, as long as the message is clear. It's always easier to edit than to create something from scratch.
Thank you so much for your time, Maya. Hope to see you again in another session very soon. Thanks for your very informative session of our conversation. Take care. Bye. See you in another session.
You're very welcome, Rakaya. Anytime. And yeah, I look forward to our next chat. Seriously, these conversations are good for me too. Take care and bye for now.